Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm good. Good, man. We're finally making it happen, huh?
Right on. I appreciate the interest. Thank you, man.
You're very welcome. All right, let me bring the music down a little bit. There we go. Now, let's see if I can hear you. All
Yeah.
right.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
All right. How do I pronounce your last name?
It depends on what part of the country you're in.
Okay.
When I was in Ohio, my family all pronounced it Andrus,
Andres.
Andrus, and then
Hmm.
I came to California, and all my relatives pronounce it Andres.
Andres. Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
it's actually German,
Okay.
but I think it was probably originally Enders. And
Okay.
because that's a common German name, that's like the equivalent of Smith in the United States, you know. Um,
Gotcha.
and then I think it just either changed at Ellis Island and they said Enders and it became Andres. And yeah, who knows? So my Ohio family says Andres, my California family says Andres.
Okay. Well,
I go
ladies
by
and
I go by either.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have drummer extraordinaire, educator, composer, arranger, band leader, Brian Andrus.
There you go.
Andrus. Anders.
Yeah,
All right.
I go by all.
Awesome. Awesome, man. So we're gonna chat with you, drum I'm doing drummers all this month on the drive through
Cool.
on the radio program, and I did a interview with Billy Drummond last week,
Oh
and he
wow.
yeah, and he informed me that Drum World magazine or some drum magazine that they had been making November uh the month for drummers for years,
Yeah.
for a few years, and I had no idea, so I thought that was right in line. So I said, you know what, I've been trying to get Brian, and I had to cancel one of them. I'm getting Brian on this next one.
Right on. I appreciate that.
All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna just talk a little bit about you, some of the things you're doing, some
Sure.
of your accomplishments. We're not gonna mention pricing, and we're gonna tell people where they can find you, man, where they can find your product, where they can come and hear you play. That's what we're gonna cover. That work?
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Well, I want to start with, you mentioned you were from Cincinnati.
I am born and raised. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Were
Yeah.
you involved? I'm kind of putting it before the horse because I got to get this out of my head. Were
Sure.
you involved in the funk and soul R&B scene in Cincinnati?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you grow up in that area and you're very aware of for me, very aware of the history. James Brown recorded a lot of his hit music at King Studios in Cincinnati, and then you had Bootsy Collins,
Mm,
the Ohio Players
yes.
up from Dayton, Ohio, which is just an hour north of Cincinnati. You had that history, and then you had like these really popular bands, Midnight Star and
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Deal.
Yes.
Those were the bands that were really like bringing attention to Cincinnati and kind of had a
Mhm.
Southwest Ohio sound, I guess you could say. So yeah, you couldn't play in the music scene without knowing about that and sometimes running into those musicians. I would see Bootsy Collins at a local music store occasionally, and I actually was playing a gig once, and Sugarfoot from the Ohio Players came in and got up on stage and jammed with us. So, it was always there.
That's
Yeah,
awesome, man. Those
yeah,
those were the bands I grew up with.
yeah. It's good
Yes.
stuff. Yeah,
From Bootsy to the sounds of Dayton
yeah.
to the Ohio Players. What about Lakeside? Were they out of there as
Lakeside,
well?
yeah, that's
Okay.
another one. Yeah,
Okay. And
Yeah.
here's somebody that really put them on the map. Roger Troutman and Zapp.
Yeah. One of the biggest. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
man. So that's funny you mentioned that. And see, and I grew up in Kansas City.
Oh, that's huge history.
Well,
Yeah.
funny story, man. Funny story. And I'll keep it short. This ain't about me. But anyway, Roger Troutman and Zapp, they came to my school, my junior high school, to do a concert. Back in the day, I used to carry my little cassette demo, and I would go hours ahead, man. I was laying on the floor between the bleachers as they were setting up. They didn't even know. Then all of a sudden they saw me. Then, hey, you, come here. So they called me, they busted me out, and they called me down. And I thought they were gonna throw me out. They said, "Hey, man, we hear there's some good barbecue here in Kansas." So they sent me on a run to Gates Barbecue for. And one of the
That's
keyboard
awesome.
players, I handed him my demo, and he listened to it, and he eventually got in touch with me. And I flew out to Dayton and recorded a little bit of something. It never turned into anything, but I got to hang out and I got to see the vibe, man. And he took me around. He took me around Dayton to Sugarfoot, to Roger Troutman and Zapp, to Lakeside, to the Sounds of Dayton, to the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It was,
It's funny. I used to play Dayton, Ohio all the time when I was in Cincinnati. It was just, there was just so much happening up there.
mhm.
And I remember talking to the great big band drummer, John Von Ohlen, played,
Mm.
played with Woody Herman and Stan Kenton and all that, traveled the world. And he said all of his greatest stories came from Dayton, Ohio.
Wow.
He told me that when I'd started my career.
Mhm.
And here I am 30 some years into my career, and I swear it's the same for me. All of my crazy stories, man, happened in Dayton, Ohio. There's
Wow.
something about that town, man. It's just,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
a lot of creative people, and yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
funky town.
One other thing I remember about Dayton, it was the most expensive city I had ever flown into for whatever reason.
Oh, that's interesting.
I have no idea. I don't know if it was because the Wright brothers discovered flight in that town or what, but by the time I paid my airfare, it was like I have never paid this much for a plane ticket.
That's funny. I don't think that's the case anymore, because when I used to bring the cartel back to Cincinnati, I would actually fly myself into Cincinnati,
Mhm.
get there a couple of days earlier, and then when it was time to bring the band back, I would fly them into Dayton just to save some bread, because it
Nice,
was cheaper. So yeah, I
nice.
guess things have changed. So
Well, Brian, tell us about the cartel. Tell us, give us some.
well, the cartel was a dream of mine, that kind of started it back in 2007. I really wanted to experience, not just experiment with, but experience a band that was three horns plus a large rhythm section. And by large rhythm section, I mean myself on drums set,
Mhm.
plus a conga player, plus a timbale player. I wanted that trio of percussion sound, plus, of course, bass and keyboard to round that out. Um, and I really wanted to experiment with that concept. And there's just so much you can do with like what was basically a little mini big band, I guess you could call it. And
Mhm.
we were always playing as either an octet or larger.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I just really wanted to experience that sonic sound, and hire really good improvisers on
Mhm.
their instrument,
Mhm.
and have great charts written. And so that's kind of where it started. It started with the idea of just recording an album, which I did in 2007,
Mhm.
Drummers Speak, with the idea that I would record all compositions that were composed by drummers.
Nice.
So that was the first idea, that I knew I wanted it to be a large group, and I knew that the first album was going to be all compositions by drummers, jazz and Latin drummers. So
Very nice, man. And what the one I wound up with was Brian Andrews and the Afro-Cuban Jazz Cartel, San Francisco.
yeah, San Francisco was the second one.
Okay.
So I went into the first album in 2007, which is Drummers Speak. and before we did a single gig, I wanted to record the album. I wanted to put some people that weren't getting any opportunities to record down onto tape, and that's kind of where the idea for the band would kind of develop in the studio. And so that was, kind of getting my feet wet as a band director, band leader. We did a couple of gigs after that, and it was just super fun. And then I decided I wanted to do it again. It took a while, but that was, I think, in 2013 was San Francisco. And the concept behind that was to kind of put the spotlight on the musicians and the composers and the arrangers that were kind of in the cartel or performing with the band, if not regulars, and give them an opportunity to highlight themselves as composers and arrangers and players, but it would all be under my band direction and under the cartel. And that was when San Francisco came out in 2013, I believe, is when we released that one. So I guess the idea had gotten a little bit more refined, and the band had done some gigs, and we were kind of developing our sound at that point.
Very nice, man. I really like it. I play it on my show. I
Yeah, I appreciate that. It seemed to be well received. I didn't do any promotion on the first album, but I did with the drum with San Francisco. I ended up getting a publicist and doing radio promotion, and that album peaked at number 11 on the jazz charts. So I know that it was well received. So.
Very nice. Here's a little bit of it right here. Black Market. Yeah. So tell us where can we get it? If people want to get it, where can they get it? Where can they find out more about you?
Right now, if you wanted to buy a hard copy of it or download it, the best way to do that would be through my website, which is brianandres.com. I do have a little music store on there where you can buy all of my CDs either on hard copy or digital download.
Okay, and spell it out for them.
Yeah, it's Brian, Brian, and then Andres is Andres.
Very nice. .com. Brian Andres, phenomenal drummer. I can just imagine. We've never met in person before, but I can feel your vibe. I really think you're a warm person, and I'm looking forward to. I missed you this year at San Jose Jazz Fest. I actually had COVID and I couldn't come out.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I did put a plug in you for one of their jazz funds.
Yeah, the official word, gosh, I think it's supposed to come out this weekend.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping positive for you, man.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. It takes a village, so to speak, and you have to have people in your corner. And I certainly appreciate everybody that has done everything that they can, little and small, to help me along. So.
Very nice. And that's funny because when once I had recommended you, one of the first ping backs was, "Oh yeah, he played our festival this year." So that made me go, "Okay, so they're aware."
We had a great time. We were the opening slot on Friday night down there on a stage, and so from the crew that they had there to producer to the manager of the stage, everybody was just really great. We had a great time.
Awesome.
And it's just such a well run festival, and then there was just amazing talent on that stage through that whole weekend. So
yes,
it's just to be a part of that. It's just great. I've played the salsa stage before. This was the first time doing a Latin jazz show, not dance oriented. And it was just, hopefully we get to do it more and more.
I'm pretty sure you will.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you will. Okay, let's talk about I see on your social media page you do some how can I say, some community events. Talk to me about that, and with children and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, it's teaching. It's for me supplemental income other than just performing.
Hmm.
I'm very much involved in teaching. I have a teaching practice that runs the gamut from private instruction
Nice.
uh, all the way to after school programs
Oh,
in
definitely.
elementary and junior high schools to college level. This past summer, I was involved in the Cal Arts Summer Arts Program,
Hmm.
which is held every year. Well, it's not every year held in Fresno, but for the past few years,
Yeah.
they've been doing it at Fresno State University. Um, and it's for college age and above. We had, all age adults there teaching. So yeah, in education is a big part of my life, and kind of paying it forward, so to speak, and getting the
Yes.
word out there, and everything from just simple drum lessons to lecturing on the history of Afro-Cuban and Afro-Caribbean African diaspora music.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
runs the gamut.
Very nice. Okay, and give us your website again, just in case educators, just in case people are listening and just now caught up and said, "Oh, drum lessons."
Yeah, yeah, all that's on there as well. Thank you. It's brianandres.com.
Hmm.
Brian with an I, Brian,
Hmm.
Andres, Andres.
Okay. Now, what gigging? Where are you, and where can people see you?
The best place to catch the trio or the quartet is
Mhm.
at the jazz club called Mr. Tipples,
Okay.
which is down on Fell Street between Market and Van Ness. Great club. Whether I'm there or not, I highly recommend everybody go check out Mr. Tipples. He's been supporting jazz for years, and they've got music there 4 nights a week, Wednesday through Saturday.
Okay.
And I'm generally there at least once a month. We just did our November hit last week.
Hmm.
December, he's got a bunch of private engagements for
Yep.
the holidays, corporate events. So not much happening there for me, but I'll be back there in January on the 21st.
Hmm.
And usually I'm there around the third weekend of the month. Usually that's the rotation he seems to have me on.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm at Mr. Tipples. I'm at Bird and Beckett. You can catch me. I don't have a date there, but I'm usually in the rotation at Bird and Beckett.
Okay.
And
Do you usually put all of this on your social media page as well?
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you
Okay.
can go in through my website, you can catch my all the common ones, social, Facebook and
Mm.
Instagram and all that. I did just leave Twitter, as many people
Thank
have.
goodness. Ain't that some
Uh,
twit?
yeah, I got rid of that one for the time being. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. So
That is some bull twit as we know it, ain't?
yeah, I can't be supportive of that crap, man.
Woo, man. Oh man. So if there was an individual, whatever, student, kid, whatever, adult, and they were thinking about getting into drumming, percussion or whatever, where would you recommend they start?
Um, if they
And
already
and
play,
how?
yeah, well, if they're totally beginners, then I highly recommend they find somebody local to them and
Hmm.
start taking lessons, um, because their natural ability is going to give them a start, but they're really going to want to find somebody that is a professional player
Hmm.
and instructor that can kind of give them guidance along the way. And then once they get to a certain facility,
Hmm.
and they can go out and hopefully with their instructors uh, blessing, they can go out and do what I did when I was, this is the path that I followed. I
Hmm.
started going to jazz jams and blues jams and opportunities where you get to sit in
Hmm.
and and it's trial by fire. You either succeed or you don't, but you're going to learn something regardless.
Nice.
And you do what we call making this scene. You show up as much as you can and play. You're
Hmm.
going to meet other players and network.
Hmm.
That's for me the best way to go about doing it.
Okay, that's good. That's good info. One more, a couple of more questions.
Yeah.
And this could go either way. In your view, who leads the band? Who is drive, leads, controls, the drummer or the bass player?
Oh, between those two,
Yep.
the drummer.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna say the drummer.
And why?
Yeah. Um, there's a symbiotic relationship there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the drummer is the one that all the other musicians should be listening to for the foundation.
Okay.
And you're going to need that whatever they're cueing in on, whether it's a specific aspect of the drum kit, the kick drum, the snare drum, the hi-hat, whatever that is,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the time is should be, if it's a good drummer, should be being stated. Now, so everybody should really that should be the foundation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, speak to me about how dynamics are important and what dynamics are.
Well, the dynamics, basic speaking, is just the volume at which a band is playing at. And if you're doing it right, you're using dynamics as a push and pull, attention and release. If everything, and there've been plenty of rock shows where there's really no dynamic at all. It's just at 10 and it's aggression.
Yeah.
And and then what they do to get that push pull, and it's a sort of a dynamic. It's just stop. It's just literally, it's like the band will stop and start, and they use that as a dynamic. But on a jazz gig, you're gonna run the entire gamut of really quiet to really loud.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you're doing that in a very musical and meaningful way.
Right.
If you're playing a ballad, you want to play as quiet as possible until the music at one point may crescendo and build. It's just adding color. It would be like not using a dynamic would be like a painter that uses just one color choice. And dynamics just give you the full palette of colors to use.
Okay. And the reason I ask that is because I've seen situations where there are groups playing, or else whatever they're playing, and they have a vocalist, but at some point the vocalist gets drowned out, and it takes a professional musician, either the drummer or the bass player, to at some point build it up and drop it down, bass player plop, or woo, or the drummer smack the snare, or and then everybody just goes, oh, what happened?
I was lucky enough to start my career playing with a blues band, a great harmonica player named Cincinnati Slim.
Okay.
And in the blues, you're using basic music forms and basic harmonies. You're only and for the most part you're using 3 chords,
right?
And it's
12
not
bar.
Exactly. It's not anywhere as harmonically rich as, say, a jazz gig where the harmonies can be very lush and deep and complex.
Got it.
And so that band, Cincinnati Slim, as a band leader, we would be playing, and he was experienced, much older than I was at the time. I was young. And they would use dynamics not to just create great music, but to control the crowd.
Yes.
If he felt we were losing a crowd to conversation, he would have the band play really quiet until the conversation, then they became self-aware of their own talking.
Got it.
And the room, it was amazing. We would be as quiet as possible, and then the room would get as quiet as we were. Nice. And then we had a signal, and the signal was just to lay on this one big, heavy, loud note, just boom.
Yeah.
And the whole place would just go crazy. One note, from a whisper to a roar, one note. And I really learned the power of dynamics in that
Power of
band,
dynamics, man.
and just how to control an audience and how to control that dynamic and really make a powerful statement. And yeah, so it's for me, it's a very important, and it is a challenging thing. It's a challenging thing for, as I said, when I was playing with the cartel and we had 8 or 9 people on stage,
Mhm.
to for each one of us to control our own dynamic to the point where the person that was really featured at any given moment
Right.
is the one that you were paying attention to the most, you know.
Right.
It's a challenging thing, and in some ways, it's the last thing that musicians learn how to do well, is
Wow.
play with a real mature sense of dynamic.
Very nice. I'm
Yeah.
glad we covered that. If there was any other career choice for you, what would it be?
It would be as
Let me see if I can guess.
okay.
Be a motorcycle race driver.
You got it. Yeah, as ridiculous as telling somebody I want to be a professional drummer was, uh, being a motorcycle racer, professional motorcycle racer's got to be ridiculous.
I
Yeah, and
nailed it.
if I had another life to live, yeah, I would fantasize about being good enough to be a MotoGP racer for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. All right, this is my last question. Then you'll give us your website. Then we'll say so long, man, because I know you're a busy guy. Can you cook?
You know, I can cook about 8 things,
Okay.
8 meals, and that has a little story to it, and I'll make it quick.
Okay.
Moving out to California when I did,
Yeah.
my mother and parents, they're both gone now, but my mother would come out every Easter for the
Okay.
long Easter weekend and visit me, and we would cook one meal together,
Okay.
and she would bring her recipe and she would teach me how to cook that one meal, one a year.
It's nice.
And so that was what we did. And I got 8 of her recipes out of that. And so I could do 8 things. And then beyond that, it's all peanut butter and jelly, man.
Hey, man. There you go. There you go. I love it, man. And
Yeah,
that's how I do it. I always ask all my subjects that, man.
right on.
Just
Good
because
question.
food brings us together, we all must eat. And to survive, we all must get along.
Right? Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
So if we could eat, drink, and listen to some music, I think we'd all be okay.
You're right about that. Music, food, drink, it all goes together really well.
Man, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Brian,
Thank you, Eric. I
it's
had a
been
great time, man. Thank you so much.
good. You're very welcome. Tell Kenya I said what's happening.
I will.
And what's your website, man? Give it to us one more time.
Right on. It's brianandres.com. It's BrianAndres.com.
All right, there's a whole lot more we could have chatted about, but hey, I just wanted to get you on, man.
I
Get you
appreciate that, man. It's been a
and
pleasure.
and the airwaves that I share are yours as well.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. Talk
Sounds
to
good.
you, man.
All
Okay.
right, Eric. Take
Thank
care,
you,
man.
buddy. Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.